Okay, we're back at it for Julius Caesar Act 3, Scene 2. I just realized in Scene 1, I recorded a 30-minute video, and this microphone was turned off. I have a secondary mic that was on, but it's much further away, which is why it might have been hard for you to hear me, but I'm not re-recording that. It took me a long time, and I think it was okay, but your sound quality should be much better on this one. So my apologies on that, but here we go. Okay, Act 1 ends. We see basically a new conflict. For Act 1 and 2, the conflict was Brutus trying to decide what he wanted to do, and then when he finally decided to do it, then a conflict was between Caesar and the conspirators, but now Caesar's dead. So what's interesting is the play is called the Tragedy of Julius Caesar, and he dies in Act 1 of Scene 3, and there are 5 acts with at least 3 scenes in every act. Some of the scenes have up to 5, or acts have up to 5 scenes, so he's not even in the play for half of it. This is really about Brutus, Antony, and Cassius. And so Antony, who hasn't been super involved in the first 2 acts, is now a much more primary character for the rest of this. So that's the conflict now, is the conspirators versus Antony, and Antony telling them that he's going to cooperate, but secretly planning on not cooperating. Remember, he was given permission to speak at Caesar's funeral as long as he didn't blame the conspirators for Caesar's death. And he had to speak after Brutus. So that's where we're at. So now, Scene 2. Enter Brutus and Cassius with the plebeians. Plebeians are like commoners, the common people. We will be satisfied. Let us be satisfied. Then follow me and give me audience, friends. Cassius, go you into the other street and part the numbers. Those that will hear me speak, let them stay here. Those that will follow Cassius, go with him. And public reasons shall be rendered of Caesar's death. I will hear Brutus speak. I will hear Cassius and compare their reasons when severally we hear them rendered. Cassius exits with some of the plebeians. Brutus goes into the pulpit. So they've divided the group up so that they can all hear. Brutus is going to speak in one area. Cassius is going to speak in the other area. And the public, people are going to listen to both of them, and then they're going to compare notes, basically. They're going to make sure that they're saying the same thing. The noble Brutus is ascended. Silence. Be patient till the last, Romans, countrymen, and lovers. Hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. But this is funny to me because that's like a teacher asking the class to be quiet until the teacher's done explaining everything. And this is something that they were dealing with in ancient Greece. Believe me for mine honor, and have respect to mine honor, that you may believe. Censure me in your wisdom, and awake your senses, that you may the better judge. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus's love to Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. So this is his argument, is he's like, look, if any of you loved Caesar here, I also loved Caesar. And naturally, you're going to have a question. If you love Caesar, why'd you rise up against him and kill him? And Brutus's response is, I killed Caesar not because I lost love for him, but because my love for Rome was so much more than my love for Caesar. This had to be done. Had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves than that Caesar were dead to live all free men? He's basically saying if Caesar would have stayed alive, we would have all been slaves. But now we're all free, and we had to sacrifice Caesar to do that. As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. There is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. Who is here so base that would be a bondman? If any speak, for him have I offended. Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? If any speak, for him have I offended. Who is here so vile that will not love his country? If any speak, for him have I offended. I pause for a reply. So he's basically saying, look, I did this for the good of all of us. And he said, I loved all of these qualities about Caesar, but he was ambitious. He wanted to be a king and an emperor and a supreme leader. and that's why I killed him. He's like, so really the only people who I have offended are the people who want to be slaves. If there's any of you that want to be slaves, let me know, because you're who I've offended. If there are any here that don't want to be a Roman, if you don't want to be a Roman, then I've offended you also. So let me know, and I'll apologize to you. And if any of you don't love your country, then I've offended you. So he's using an interesting strategy. He's like, hey, anybody that wants to be free, that wants to be called a Roman, and that wants to love their country, they'd like what I did. Who here doesn't want those things? And he says, I pause for a reply. Like, I'll wait to hear your answer. The plebeians, the crowd, none, Brutus, none. Then none have I offended. I have done no more to Caesar than you shall do to Brutus. The question of his death is enrolled in the Capitol, his glory not extenuated wherein he was worthy, nor his offenses enforced for which he suffered death. Enter Mark Antony and others with Caesar's body. Here comes his body mourned by Mark Antony, who, though he had no hand in his death, shall receive the benefit of his dying, a place in the commonwealth, as which of you shall not. With this I depart, that as I slew my best lover for the good of Rome, I save the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to need my death. So Brutus's speech is, I love Caesar, but I loved Rome more. Caesar wanted this, and I had to kill him for it, to protect all of your freedoms and to protect your ability to call yourselves Romans and to protect this country. And look, here comes Mark Antony, and he didn't participate in killing Caesar, but he's going to benefit from the death of Caesar like all of you will. And here's the deal. I didn't do anything that I wouldn't expect you to do to me. If I start behaving the way Caesar did, then you use that same dagger on me, and I will not have any hard feelings. And he's like, with this, I leave you. This is why we did it. And he's like, and I'm happy that I did it, even though I weep for Caesar as my friend. I do not weep for Caesar as a Roman. And he's finishing his speech, and the plebeians say, live, Brutus, live, live. So he's won them over. Bring him with triumph home unto his house. So they want to have like a parade that takes Brutus home. Give him a statue with his ancestors. Let him be Caesar. So now they want Brutus. The irony here is there's a song, I don't know if you guys like Coldplay, but the song Viva La Vida, there's a line in it where it says, now that the old king is dead, long live the king. It's like they just got rid of Caesar. They all loved Caesar, but now they've listened to Brutus, and now they agree that Caesar needed to die, and now they want Brutus to be the Caesar. So that as soon as a king dies, they want to name a new king. Caesar's better parts shall be crowned in Brutus. We'll bring him to his house with shouts and clamors. My countrymen, peace, silence. Brutus speaks. Peace, ho. Good countrymen, let me depart alone, and for my sake stay here with Antony. Do grace to Caesar's corpse and grace his speech, tending to Caesar's glories, which Mark Antony, by our permission, is allowed to make. I do entreat you, not a man depart, save I alone, till Antony have spoke. So they all want to give this parade and honor and glory to Brutus, but Brutus says, listen, let me just leave on my own. This is what I want all of you to do. I want you to stay here and listen to Antony. We want to do this the right way, okay? So don't leave until Antony's done speaking. And he even tells them, we've given Antony permission to speak well of Caesar, and you all need to listen to him. Stay, ho, and let us hear Mark Antony. Let him go up into the public chair. We'll hear him. Noble Antony, go up. For Brutus's sake, I am beholding to you. He goes into the pulpit. What does he say of Brutus? He says, for Brutus's sake, he finds himself beholding to us all. 'Twere best he speak no harm of Brutus here. This Caesar was a tyrant. Nay, that's certain. We are blessed that Rome is rid of him. Peace, let us hear what Antony can say. You gentle Romans, peace, ho, let us hear him. So Antony goes up and he said, I'm only here because Brutus is allowing me to. So he's actually speaking well of Brutus. And this crowd is just all, Brutus is just won over the whole crowd. So Antony sees this and understands it. And so he's like, thanks to Brutus that I'm allowed to be here. So he's speaking well of Brutus. And he's trying to get everybody's attention. And these plebeians, they're actually like, that's for us as the audience to understand how the crowd is thinking. They're like narrating the crowd's thoughts, basically. But Antony's starting to speak, and the plebeians are like, let's hear him. Let's hear what he has to say. And Antony begins his speech, and this is another extremely famous line from this play. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men, come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was that ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. With what cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. He weeps. He thinks there is much reason in his sayings. So look at this. This is really clever of Mark Antony right here. He was given permission to speak by Brutus and the other conspirators. The only condition is he could not say anything bad about the conspirators, and he had to go after Brutus. So Brutus spoke first. He won everybody over. Then Brutus left, and he let Mark Antony, and he actually commanded all of the people to listen to Mark Antony. And Mark Antony comes up, and he's not technically saying anything bad about Brutus. He's saying Brutus was an honorable man, but then he's also presenting all of this evidence of Caesar not being ambitious. So right here it says he brought many captives home to Rome. So like when he on all the Roman conquests, when they conquered new territories, they would take prisoners of war back to Rome, and then the native countries would pay for their release, and that payment would fill the general coffers. So it's almost like it was taxes, almost like all this money that came in. Caesar didn't keep it for himself. He dispersed it throughout Rome. He built up Rome and made it more wealthy and more extravagant. And Mark Antony's like, he brought all these captives home to Rome, and everybody benefited from the money that came in. Did that seem ambitious? It's like, it doesn't seem ambitious, but Brutus said it's ambition, and Brutus is honorable. And then he says his next one, when the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Like Caesar tried to help out poor people. And he's like, is that ambition? If that's ambition, ambition should be made of something more stern. Caesar shouldn't weep if he's ambitious. But hang on. Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is honorable. So we've got to listen to what Brutus says. And then he's like, oh, and at that feast of Lupercal, I tried to give Caesar the crown 3 times, and all 3 times Caesar rejected it. Does that seem ambitious? Not really. But Brutus says he's ambitious, and Brutus is honorable. So you can see he's not technically saying anything bad about Brutus or the other conspirators, but he's giving these opposing examples. But he's not saying that they're opposing. He's like, yeah, you're right. Even though Caesar was behaving in these ways that don't seem ambitious, he was ambitious because Brutus says he was. And so now the plebeians, and now Antony sees Caesar in the casket, and he's like, he was my friend, and I'm crying. And you all liked him at one point. You guys should be sad that he's dead because you liked him at one point. He's like, hang on, I got to take a break. I'm going to cry for a minute. And he weeps. And the first plebeian says, methinks there is much reason in his sayings. If thou consider rightly of the matter, Caesar has had great wrong. Has he, masters? I fear there will a worse come in his place. Marked you his words? He would not take the crown. Therefore, 'tis certain he was not ambitious. If it be found so, some will dear abide it. Poor soul, his eyes are red as fire with weeping. There's not a nobler man in Rome than Antony. Now mark him, he begins to speak. This is actually Caesar being pretty critical of the crowds, of the masses. See how quickly they changed their minds? Brutus won them over, and then Antony immediately wins them over. The crowd is swinging back and forth to each group. And that's a kind of a criticism for Shakespeare's time period, where basically whenever there was a new ruler that came in, people would hate him, and then they would replace him, and then there would be things that they hate, and the crowds could be easily swayed. Sorry, I just hurt my foot on the chair. But anyway, the crowds could be easily swayed based on whoever was talking to them at the moment. And that's Shakespeare saying that, like, basically an individual person can be smart, but groups of people are really dumb. And that's these plebeians changing their minds so quickly is evidence of that. And that's actually a message that applies today. If you think about it, people with politics or whatever, we swing back and forth like a pendulum as a public, whereas individual people can still hold their opinions and things like that. Okay, Antony's going to continue his speech. But yesterday the word of Caesar might have stood against the world. Now lies he here. Now lies he there, and none so poor to do him reverence. O masters, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who you all know are honorable men. I will not do them wrong. I rather choose to wrong the dead, to wrong myself and you, then I will wrong such honorable men. So he's like, look, if I told you stories and I got you all riled up against Brutus and Cassius, that would be bad because they're so honorable. So you know what? We should suffer. I'll suffer, you'll suffer, Caesar will suffer, so that the honorable men don't have to suffer. That's the right thing to do. And that, of course, people are like, wait, that sucks. Like, I don't want to suffer, and you shouldn't suffer, and Caesar shouldn't suffer, so that these few men could get what they want. But here's a parchment with the seal of Caesar. I found it in his closet. 'Tis his will. Let but the commons hear this testament, which, pardon me, I do not mean to read, and they would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds, and dip their napkins in his sacred blood, yea, beg a hair of him for memory, and dying mention it within their wills, bequeathing it as a rich legacy unto their issue. So Mark Antony says he has the will of Caesar. Now, this is a little bit suspicious, especially when he starts reading it, because he says when you hear about what he has in the will, you'd all like want to like resurrect him or take something of him, because he's so valuable what he'll do for the people even after he's dead, that you'll be telling stories about Caesar for generations, and you'll pass down even a hair from his head. It'll be the most valuable thing in your home. We'll hear the will. Read it, Mark Antony. The will, we will hear Caesar's will. So Antony kind of tantalizes him. He says, I have his will, but I don't mean to read it right now. It's if I read it to you, you'd love Caesar so much right now, and that's not what we need to do. We need to respect these honorable men. Have patience, gentle friends. I must not read it. It is not meet you know how Caesar loved you. You are not wood, you are not stones, but men. And being men, hearing the will of Caesar, it will inflame you. It will make you mad. 'Tis good you know not that you are his heirs, for if you should, oh, what would come of it? He's like, if you heard the will, you'd get so mad at these other guys. We can't do that. He's like, I can't tell you that you're Caesar's heirs, that he left things to you. He's like, what would happen then? And he's riling up the crowd. Read the will. We'll hear it, Antony. And then all of the plebeians, you shall read us the will, Caesar's will. So there's like this big crowd roar. Will you be patient? Will you stay a while? I have overshot myself to tell you of it. I fear I wrong the honorable men whose daggers have stabbed Caesar. I do fear it. They were traitors, honorable men. The will, the testament, they were villains, murderers. The will, read the will. So now Antony's got the crowd, and they're calling Brutus and these other men traitors, murderers, not honorable men. And Mark Antony's never said a bad thing about him. You will compel me then to read the will? Then make a ring about the corpse of Caesar, and let me show you him that made the will. Shall I descend? And will you give me leave? Come down, descend, you shall have leave. Antony descends. A ring, stand round. Stand from the hearse, stand from the body. Room for Antony, most noble Antony. Nay, press not so upon me, stand far off. Stand back, room, bear back. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now. You all do know this mantle. I remember the first time ever Caesar put it on. 'Twas on a summer's evening in his tent. That day he overcame the Nervi. Look, in this place ran Caesar's dagger through. See what a rent the envious Casca made. Through this the well-beloved Brutus stabbed. And as he plucked his cursed steel away, mark how the blood of Caesar followed it, as rushing out of doors to be resolved, if Brutus so unkindly knocked or no. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all. For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude, more strong than traitor's arms, quite vanquished him. Then burst his mighty heart, and in his mantle muffling up his face, even at the base of Pompey's statue, which all the while ran blood, great Caesar fell. Oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen. Then I and you and all of us fell down, whilst bloody treason flourished over us. Oh, now you weep, and I perceive you feel the dint of pity. These are gracious drops, kind souls. What, weep you when you but behold our Caesar's vesture wounded? Look you here. Antony lifts Caesar's cloak. Here is himself, marred as you see with traitors. So Antony goes down, he descends from the pulpit, he's standing around Caesar's body, and he's basically giving a play-by-play of the wounds that Caesar received. And he talks about the wound that Brutus left. And he says, when Brutus stabbed and Caesar and he pulled his knife out, the blood came rushing out as if Brutus had knocked on the door and Caesar was rushing to answer it. And he said, and when Caesar saw who gave him this wound, Caesar died, but not from all the stab wounds of the conspirators. He died of a broken heart when he saw that it was Brutus who stabbed him. And so Antony is really playing up the emotions of the crowd right here. Oh, piteous spectacle! Oh, noble Caesar! Oh, woeful day! Oh, traitors, villains! Oh, most bloody sight! We will be revenged. Seek about, seek, burn, fire, kill, slay. Let not a traitor live. Stay, countrymen. Peace there. Hear the noble Antony. We'll hear him. We'll follow him. We'll die with him. Antony's got everybody. They want to go kill Brutus and Cassius and all the other conspirators. And Antony says, stay here for a moment. And they'll say, we'll follow Antony anywhere. We'll die with Antony. Good friends, sweet friends, let me not stir you up to such a sudden flood of mutiny. They that have done this deed are honorable. What private griefs they have, alas, I know not, that made them do it. They are wise and honorable, and will no doubt with reasons answer you. I come not, friends, to steal away your hearts. I am no orator, as Brutus is, but as you know me all, a plain, blunt man, that love my friend, and that they know full well that gave me public leave to speak of him. For I have neither wit, nor words, nor worth, action, nor utterance, nor the power of speech to stir men's blood. I only speak right on. I tell you that which you yourselves do know. Show you sweet Caesar's wounds, poor dumb mouths, and bid them speak for me. But were I Brutus and Brutus Antony, there were an Antony would ruffle up your spirits and put a tongue in every wound of Caesar's that should move the stones of Rome to rise in mutiny. So once again, Antony's praising the conspirators by saying they're great orators or great public speakers. I'm not like them. If I was like Brutus, you would all rise up to mutiny if he was speaking to you about Caesar's death. It's like, I don't know what caused them to do this. I just know that I liked Caesar, and I know that you guys liked him too. And if I could speak like Brutus and I was saying these things to you, you would all want to rise up in mutiny, but I don't want that. I don't want you to rise up in mutiny against these honorable men. And the plebeians say, we'll mutiny. We'll burn the house of Brutus. Away then. And this is so 10 minutes ago, they were like, let's carry Brutus in a parade back to his house. And now they're like, we're going to burn his house down. Away then, come seek the conspirators. You hear me, countrymen, yet hear me speak. Peace ho, hear Antony, most noble Antony. Why, friends, you go to do you know not what. Wherein hath Caesar deserved your loves? Alas, you know not. I must tell you then. You have forgot the will I told you of. Most true, the will. Let's stay here, the will. So Antony hasn't even read the will yet, and these people want to leave to go kill all the conspirators. And Antony's like, stay here. You got to hear the will. That's what you asked me to read you. Here is the will, and under Caesar's seal. To every Roman citizen he gives. To every several man 75 drachmas. Most noble Caesar will revenge his death. O royal Caesar, hear me with patience. Peace ho. Moreover, he hath left you all his walks, his private arbors, and new planted orchards on this side Tiber. He hath left them you, and to you and to your heirs forever common pleasures, to walk abroad and recreate yourselves. Here was Caesar. When comes such another? Never, never. Come away, away. We'll burn his body in the holy place, and with the brands fire the traitors' houses. Take up the body. Go fetch fire. Pluck down benches. So Antony suspiciously, immediately after Caesar dies, finds his will, and in the will, Caesar leaves everybody money and land. And that just seems like he knew what he was doing, and maybe it wasn't actually Caesar's will. Also, when I scanned this in, I skipped a page. So I actually have to read from the play for a second, so it won't be on the screen. But they want to go to like the temple and burn Caesar's body as a sacrifice. Well, not a sacrifice because he's already dead, but to allow him to go up to the gods. And then they're going to light torches off of his funeral pyre. And then they're going to go burn down the conspirators' houses with that same fire. So it'll be like the flame that burns Caesar's body will be the same thing that takes down their houses. So it's like Caesar's actually overcoming all of the conspirators. So they're like, go fetch the fire and pluck down the benches. And this is what it says. It says, pluck down forms, windows, anything. Exit plebeians with the body. Antony is now just speaking to himself. Now let it work, mischief, thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. So he knows that he's riled everybody up, and he's like, all right, let's see what happens now. How now, fellow? So enter a servant. How now, fellow? Sir, Octavius has already come to Rome. Where is he? He and Lepidus are at Caesar's house, and thither will I straight to visit him. He comes upon a wish, fortune is merry, and in this mood will give us anything. I heard him say Brutus and Cassius are rid like madmen through the gates of Rome. So Brutus and Cassius, they see that Antony riled up the people, and they flee. They're out, and Octavius Caesar has come now after Antony asked him to wait, and then he came. Or maybe Antony didn't ask him to wait. Maybe he asked him to hurry up, actually. Belike they had some notice of the people, how I had moved them. Bring me to Octavius. They exit. All right, that's the end of scene 2 from Act 3. So Brutus speaks, he wins the people over. Mark Antony speaks and wins the people over even more. And it seems like whoever would have spoke last would have had the people on their side. So that was a mistake, for Brutus letting Antony to go second and to leave when Antony was speaking. And Brutus and Cassius see how riled up the people get, and they flee Rome. And earlier I was saying ancient Greece. I guess I meant the Roman Empire. I think it was in my other video. Oh well. But anyway, they're out, and now Antony's plan is afoot. The people are all riled up to mutiny against Brutus and Cassius, And now we've just got Act 3 left for this. Sorry, Scene 3 left for this act.